Everybody, this is Roxy, and I have been playing with my Tim Holtz distress markers, and I kind of have to say I think I like them better than Copic markers. And my reasoning is because you can get like a prettier watercolor effect, and I think with that aspect of it, you've got a little bit more control than with a Copic. That's just me. So what I've done is I've got this old postcard, and I'm using this as kind of an inspiration for painting my photos. And I will tell you my process so that you don't do the same mistakes that I did. So here's my first attempt. I just bought some cheesy, well, it's not cheap, but just inexpensive watercolor paper from Michael's, and I haven't tried the Tim Holtz brand yet. I've not been able to find it, so hopefully soon that'll be around in my area. Okay, this is my first attempt using the watercolor paper. I think it's just Statler, and printing my photos off on my inkjet printer. Okay, obviously it doesn't work, as you can tell. And part of the problem is because the inkjet is not waterproof, okay? So anytime I painted on it or colored on it, it spread. You can kind of see how it got real blurry and spready there. This one wasn't too bad. So then I sent my whole, and I don't know if you know this, but I know Kinko's and Office Max and probably Office Depot. I don't know about Office Depot, but Office Max, you can send them a PDF or most any kind of file that you want them to print off or work with, and they will print it off, which I like the idea that you can just email it to them, or you can put it on a USB. But so then I brought my own paper and said, can you print it off on this? No problem. I think it was like $1/4 to do that, which is not bad. So it works. The watercolor distress technique works best on laser printed photos, and I love how they turned out. So here they are, and I'm kind of using this whole, I really liked how the sky, they put a little pink and yellow and a little bit of orange just to give it kind of a little more color, but also a prettier sky. And that's just all they did was tint it. So that's kind of what I was trying to do. So I've got him, and I will tell you how I did. I'll show you how I did some of the coloring. You don't want to color it all in, except for this area, like where it's real black. See where it's really black down here? I didn't even color that part in, but I did color in like the bushes and trees, and that you kind of just want to color in. But like with these clothing, I just colored, I'll show you, I just colored where there were dark areas and then water brushed it in. But I love, absolutely adore how this one came out. So this is how it started out with a sepia tone, because that's what I just scanned my photos, using color, not black and white, and then I sent them as color photos, so I got the sepia tone because that's what the photos look like. But I love how this turned out. I mean, this looks like a watercolor that I made, not a photo. I mean, except for her little face, everything looks like it was painted as a watercolor. So that is so stinking cool. And then here's this little guy with the slimy green fish. So I'm just going to quick show you how I did like the clothing and maybe the dock. And here's another tip. I use Koi water brush. I've got some of the more or less expensive water brushes that you can get at Michael's, and then I think they're Ranger. But quite honestly, the brush tip on the Koi is so much nicer, especially when you want some small detail, because it's like it stays pointed, where my I think they're Ranger, are not as, you know, it stays nice and together, this nylon. Where the other ones are a little bit more kind of, I suppose, flimsy. So with the koi, because it's Japanese, when you put your tip on, you turn it counterclockwise to tighten it. And then I just give it a little squeeze so you can see the water come out. See it coming out there? Okay. So for the, I use faded blue jeans, of course, for the blue jeans. Or faded jeans, which is a perfect color. And then just use your brush tip. And this is what I was explaining. Here, let me get closer. Okay, so I just went over kind of the dark areas. Like here's some shadows. A little bit down here. I'll do both of them. You don't have to worry about painting or, you know, using your water brush real quick because it kind of is a forgiving. Okay. Then you just come back in with your water brush that I've already, you know, squeezed. Where is it? There. And just kind of fill in the rest of the jeans. And you're not only filling in the jeans, but you're also keeping those shadowy and highlighted areas. So it really looks cool. Isn't that cool? Okay. For their shirts, I did just a really light blue, because I figured they're white shirts. And you kind of want to make sure that you don't have little puddles of color, water. And here I'm going to go a little bit more. There. Okay, then you just want to do your tip so that you can get that color off of there. Okay. I did try this technique. I tried to tip to get the color off the tip, but what it does is it pulls all the color out, and then you don't have anything left in your tip, and you got to wait to let it fill up again. So the better way to do that would be to have like a plexiglass or plastic or a craft sheet, put some of your marker ink on it, and then use the tip. So I'm going to use tumbled glass for the shirts. Where are they? There. I'm going to pull it out a little bit. There. And again, I'm just going to go kind of over the areas where there's already some shadow. Because that's all I want to do is to kind of highlight that. This is a white shirt. You could also use pumice stone. I've used that. But I kind of like the blue just for a little more color. And then that, you don't want to spread it all around. You just want to dab on those highlighted areas just to keep the color there. Okay. Just to lighten that up a little bit. And then I'll get that off my paintbrush. Then I'm going to try this this again. I love how it turned out. It's so cool. But I am liking the techniques. So I think I used Vintage Photo. I think I used these 3 colors for the dot, which is Wild Honey, Tea Dye, and Vintage Photo. Okay, and again, this is just going over the highlights. So I'm going to start with the lightest color, which is Wild Honey. Where am I? There. And you want to just go, you know, with the grain, so to speak. I'll fill in her shadow here. And then just kind of fill in a little bit this. You don't want to get the paper too wet, of course. I've also painted on actual photos, and that's hit and miss. You have to kind of practice a little bit. Not only practice, but you know, throughout the years, photo paper has changed so much that it really depends on the era and the kind of photo paper that they used. But I'll show you what some of my results are on that too. I'm not real thrilled with a lot of it, but some of it's okay. I'm just going to go in with a little bit of tea dye. Need a little more water out there. Too much. I do really like this koi brush though. I think they're not super expensive, but I think it's be a good investment if you are going to do any of this. Any kind of watercoloring. Okay, I'm gonna let that dry a little bit. And maybe do some sky. Well, actually, I'll just show you. Yeah, the sky is, well, I'll do a little bit of sky. I remember what colors. I think it was weathered wood. Where, for this, I just came in. Kind of made my own clouds. And then just spread that out a little bit. I can't wait to get his new seasonal colors because they're so, I think they're really different from what his first colors were. I think they're going to be really fun to work with, but I have not seen them anywhere in the Twin Cities yet. I really want to try his watercolor paper. I think it is going to make a huge difference because I believe it's glossy, or it's textured on one side and not on the other. And I mean, if he knows how his products work and how they're going to work best, so I have a feeling that's going to work really cool for this little project. So then I'm going to do the sky I did with the little pink. I used spun sugar, and I kind of just like how that adds kind of a idea of a pretty summer sky. And it just kind of lightens everything up a little bit. See? Okay, and then just to show you shabby shutters and peeled paint were my favorites for trees and grass. I know I'm doing this upside down. But see how this really adds that kind of vintage tinted postcard and photo effect. You know, certain colors will give you that more so than others. Again, the pink in the sky, this green, I think this blue gives you that kind of obviously tinted effect, and that's what I'm going for. That I don't watercolor. I don't have my heat gun. Couldn't get that out. Okay, so then, and what I want to do too is, after I do the fishies, I want to glossy accent them. I think that'd be cool. And of course we're going to do a bright fish with broken china. Because our fish up here in Minnesota are really bright and colorful. Actually all fish are mostly, except carp. Ugh, we hate carp. There. But you kind of do want that obvious effect. I think I'm going to give her some khakis. And again, that's wild honey. And just going to do some of these shadows so that we can fill it in with the water brush. And you won't have too obvious of a color or saturated color. I suppose I should have done a different color because now it looks like she's, well, not too bad, part of the ramp or the deck or the dock. Okay, maybe I'll see if I can do, then I just wanted to add some vintage photo to the dock, just where the darkest colors are. Okay, so I'm just going to add okay. And then again with vintage photo. You just want to not fill out, but just kind of spread some of that color out. Okay, and then her blouse, I think I did blue also, but I'll try pumice. I always say it pumice because of Puma shoes. I'll try pumice stone on her blouse, just so you can see the difference in colors. There. Oh, we gotta give her Lucille Ball hair too. Maybe we'll do brown or yellow, which I'm gonna do scattered straw, not this marigold or mustard seed would be too yellow. Just try a little scattered straw. Just want that subtle effect. And then what I found with skin is antique linen works the best for skin, for, you know, flesh color, or for Caucasian skin, I suppose, if you will, just to get a bit of that, get it a little bit of a color, so it's not just the color of the paper. And then I think I'm going to do a little blue sock, which is weathered wood. And stormy sky is a funny color. It's good for a stormy sky, but I just don't think it looks the color that the tip is for my eyes. It just doesn't I'm sure that's just my eyes. Okay, there. So there she is. Oops, let me come back a little bit. There she turned out. And once this dries, it's not going to look so, looks a little saturated now. But I love it. I just think it is so awesome. Here are my originals. I love, see, this is a little bit of stormy sky, so it is pretty up here in his sky. There, I think I might have put a little stormy sky in. Maybe I'll try that so you can see. See how it's a little purpley? I mean, it definitely is a stormy sky. And she doesn't realize that behind her, the storms are brewing. She is as happy as a clam. That's what I love about collecting old photos, is just, you know, the stories behind it, just that you can make up. Okay, so there's that. Now, as for coloring on actual photos, it's kind of hit and miss. This is a really probably from the 1910s, 1920s, and you'll see some of it looks kind of metallic. That's a certain process. With those types of photos, or photo paper and printing, the markers lay on top and then they kind of pool up a little bit without going in with the watercolor brush. Also, when there's more dark, it kind of pools up a little bit without using the water brush. I don't use the water brush too much on, like this Adobe house I was trying to make. I didn't use the water brush at all. I was just tinting it with the markers. This one I did use the water brush a little bit, and it worked okay. But it's a little bit harder to do photos. Let me see if I've got, I thought I had some more here. Yeah, here we go. Like a dodo bird, I forgot to scan this. So these poor people are going to wear the same color of their clothes. But isn't that great picture? I love it. And this was just straight on. That worked the best. And it's a real glossy, this is probably from the 50s, early 60s, this photo, when they used a lot of Kodachrome. But that's probably the best I've had, is when it's real glossy paper. This one is from paper that I purchased myself from Kodak. That is, oh, here, Strathmore, not Stadler. There's my watercolor paper. You see it at Mike's in the kitty section. And then here's the Kodak paper I bought a couple years, well, last year. It's a gloss, and it's really nice. I think it's instant dry when you print it, but I think it's the best. Here, I'll go sideways so you can see it. Is there a number on it? For me, it's the best Kodak or photo paper to make it look like an old photo. That's all I have is that number, cat. Here's the UPC if that helps. But it's basically just their gloss photo paper. I think it was about 20 bucks on Amazon. And that's what this is. And this worked out pretty well. I think I saturated, I used too much color. Next time I would just do my technique of coloring the shadows. Okay. And these were printed on my inkjet, so these worked out fine to color over them. It's the watercolor paper that really has a hard time. And see, these were kind of more having Andy Warhol moments. Okay. That's actually my father-in-law. I actually know somebody in that one. But I love how this came out with her hair and just a little bit of color, you know. The trees are cool. Here's these guys. And again, this was when I was coloring in the whole thing, not just highlighting the shadows. She turned out, these were just test ones for her to figure out what colors to use, and I think I ended up with the yellow. I love that. And then this one did not turn out, and I'll tell you why. This is one where everything except for this girl was tinted from the printing process, and I think that's why it's real streaky. So I'm gonna have to figure out how to do that one. But I think they're kind of cool. It's just, oh, here's a cool one. I like how that one turned out too. You know, it's kind of like the Schindler's List. Did you see that movie? Steven Spielberg did the coolest thing. It was all black and white except for the little girl in the red coat, so that you could follow her through her short and sad life. You know, she was the only color in the whole movie, and it's because she had a little red coat on, and they saw her outside the train station, and then eventually you see the little red coat in a pile of clothing of individuals and people who had been killed. So, oh, that's Carrie's. I love that, Carrie. That wasn't part of my tinting, but so I hope you try it out. It's super fun. And I think the best part of this for me has been kind of the testing and trying out different processes and papers and coloring techniques. And like I said, you can, you know, like this looks like a watercolor painting now. And, you know, some of them really are cool that way. So check it out, and I can't wait to try his new watercolor paper, because I'm sure it's really going to work the best. But thanks for watching. Bye.